Hello, all. Checking on the sound and the video. Everything working okay? Hey there, Abdul and John and Graham. How you guys doing? Yeah. Oh, thanks, John. Yeah, we had Thanksgiving was a couple days ago. Big family time. We had see there were 10 family members, two dogs, and a charming cat. So we're back together, back home again. Hi, Alexander. How you doing, neighbor? Today's supposed to be a relatively nice day. Um, Hi, Dom. How you doing? Okay. Well, listen, to get started, uh, what I wanted to do, I thought it would be sort of a good day to talk about complications. I don't know if this is the most complicated watch. It's the most complicated watch that I own. It's a Parmigiani Tonda hemispheres, and it has um, sort of two time dials. The sort of an eccentric dial up here, and then the main dial, and then it has two day-night indicators, and then it has a date. Now, according to one definition I looked at, a complication is adding everything beyond the time. I don't know whether a date would include that or not. I'm not sure, so I won't say one way or the other. But that's what I wanted to look at. It's a complication. Here's the watch that we had done, the Larique E2 number one. There are no complications on it. It's according to the definition of complications. On the other hand, it's got two very, very complicated and very interesting features. On the one hand, it has the Agonaise gearing with the springs on it, and then it within the gear teeth, and then it also has the Agon pit regulator, which is totally different kind of regulator. So, yeah, there's complications, but they're not complications that are count as complications. So that's what I wanted to talk about. Hey, William, how you doing? Adam, hi. Big Sal. Hey, Washington. How you guys? How you doing? Hi, Clyde and everyone. I don't know about that one, Adam. Okay. Um, all right. So uh, let me first of all sort of talk about a little complications that are not considered complications. The two that I just mentioned are two. Um, the things like a chain and fusée, the remontoir de galette, what are some other ones like that are considered the tourbillon. All of those are fairly complicated mechanisms, but since they are simply for let's see, constant force of some sort for time telling, they're not considered complication. I forgot where the date fell in it, so I'll just leave it out. But the the complications, probably the the most complex and simplest one that we all know about. It's simple in the sense that we know about it. Would be a chronograph. But what are some other ones that? One of the things about the chronograph, a lot of people say, "Well, I never use them," or egg timers and things like that. But what I wanted to really kick around with you was some. What about what are some complications that are really handy that you use all the time, or you have them and you just like to have them and you don't use them? Um, Let me start off with one that I have beside the chronograph, is a moon phase. I mean, nobody waits for the moon phase. Here comes the moon. I don't think so, but it's one that's fun to have. Constant Force. Yeah, with Chuck Norris. Okay, let's see. I would love to have a remontoire. Yeah, me too. Something like Groenfeld or the one that FP Jarn has. There are a lot of different ones I'd like to have. That was Gerbo Force, I think, some time ago. At one of the watch time shows, we were talking to Stephen Force, and I asked him, I said, I wonder, because they had a Remontoire d'Égalité, and he said something really funny, I think. I said, well, how come more watches don't have that? And he says, it's really complicated. that was why they didn't have Remontoire d'Égalité, but they're not considered complications because they're sort of part of sort of making mechanical time telling as smooth as possible. Is a double hairspring a complication? I don't think so. That's a good one, though. I hadn't thought of that. It's complicated as all get out, according to the people at H. Moser, because you've got these springs going in two different directions, but the purpose of them is to stabilize the um, the timing with the balance wheels so that there's offsetting torque. It's sort of like a twin engine airplane. If you fly a single engine plane, you got to stomp on the opposite rudder of where the torque is going. So if the torque is going to your left, you have to stomp on the right rudder so that the plane goes straight down the runway rather than veering off. On the other hand, if you have two props, you can have them going in different directions so that they cancel out the torque. That's what a double hairspring does. But again, they quit making them simply because they were just too expensive. And if there's some out there in the wild and you can get one, get one. They're great. They do work. They were expensive to produce. They were not popular. But I think that they sort of they come under not counting as a complication because they don't add anything, quote, new. I got the same question about a power reserve indicator. A power reserve indicator tells you how much is left in your winder, um, but I don't know what would that count. Hey Lee, how you doing? How are things in Frackin' Gulch? Hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving. Hi Hugh. Hi lease time. Boy, there's Big Sal. Just quick checking in with you. Going now for my birthday lunch. Hey, happy birthday, lease time. Uh, Hi, Hossein and Junior. Okay. What about date or day date? Yeah, that's a good one. That was the one I'm not sure about. I They are time telling. They in terms of a larger time telling, like a perpetual calendar. To me, that's a complication. But I don't. It's sort of like a almost a dumb category in this sense. And by a dumb category, somebody came along and said, "Well, we're going to call them complication." They could have called them something else like added functions or non time telling functions. Even though you take a chronograph and it does timing, it just does immediate timing. I think that the whole thing was sort of a mistake to separate, but either that or do it in a complications for pure time and complications for other things. Like a moon phase, it has to do with timing of the moon. They all have to do something with timing, I think. Um, if you had one that was a back scratcher or something, that would be something that has nothing to do with that. Always interesting to see the origins of certain complications. Moon phase originated for maritime clocks. I can see why too. Very important. Good one. That's a great point, John. Hi, Hobby. Um, I don't know, Thomas. Again, date probably is if it's a complication, be the most common one. But I don't know. Well, anyway, I just which complications? Let's say we'll use sort of this hazy definition of something that adds to basic. We'll say hour, minute, and second telling. Which one would be the most useful? Is the timing bezel a complication since it's technically operated by the movement? Oh, I don't know. I guess you're not talking about a hand turn bezel, are you? Hi, Truman. Um, yeah, got my Larique on. I've been wearing it ever since I got it. Um, Hi, Billy. Uh, Gilberto, good to see you. Okay. I want to say the bezel should be counted as a complication as it is part of the watch. It's definitely useful. Okay. Hi, Letrovitz. Watches with minute repeaters are, to me, that would be a complication. The repeaters, minute repeaters. Ding dong. A non-complication on a watch that I've learned to appreciate is large print. Yeah. Yeah. The other thing is we were talking about those three arm second hands where and then that are using the three tracks for the seconds. To me, even though it simply is a matter of adding three tracks onto the dial and having three arms on the same second hand that has the same movement rather than a single one, that would to me would be a sort of a type of complication. Yes, it's telling time, but sort of in a fancy way, how that works. Now, small seconds are, I think they're considered part of the basic time telling. Um, in fact, I don't know. I That's a good question, Gilberto. I don't know. I mean, there's something that's added to the watch. Um, This has got a second time zone, and then it's got 2 day-night indicators. Yeah, they're all about time, but not and it's got extra gizmos on it and so forth. I don't know. I think it's you know, the it's funny coming back to the chronograph where you have something which what you actually do is you set up another timing thing, so it's all about timing still. Oh, an alarm. That's a great example, Abdul. Yeah. I've got this. I have one watch with an alarm on it. My hearing's shot, so I can't really hear it, but I can feel it go "Zzz," like that when the alarm goes off. It's one of those. It's a Russian Poljot that I got simply to have an alarm, and it was like I think I picked it up for 35 bucks on eBay, but that's a complication. And it's sort of check off something dumb on your what you want on your collection. What about a generational calendar? Now, to me, Clyde, that would definitely be a complication. I don't know why. There's it's something like I said, this is when you look at this, you say, okay, you got hours, minutes, and eccentric seconds. All right, this sort of basic timekeeping watch. But then on the inside, you have this spring-loaded gear that's a special, um, what is it called? Patented property. And then you have another, this Agon pit regulator that's totally different. It regulates, you can set the regulator for both the beat and the frequency. They're complications, and yet they're all dedicated to keeping and setting time. So they're supposed to be, they don't count. Hi, Mason. Not sure bezel is the complication, though. I think it would be part of the movement. Yeah, I have my Blancpain 50 Fathoms, 5015 titanium, silicon hairspring. Yeah. It's absolutely beautiful. Yeah, they're beautiful watches. There's this watch company that this guy keeps asking about. Real nice guy. Named, I think he's from Norway or someplace. Super nice guy. But the watches are Yes watches, and the Yes watches are essentially, I think they're smart watches, and they're fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. They're just not, just sort of lost my interest when on that. So sort of focusing on we'll call them traditional mechanical watches. It doesn't mean that people with silicon hairsprings, they go off and they're probably will they're not going to get magnetized and a few other things like that. But there goes any kind of spring regulation because for the most part they don't need it. But that's what's the fun in that? Okay, some watches have a pointer. Oh, hand dates. Yeah, Washington. Those, yeah, the hand dates. One of my favorite. I like hand dates far more than those little windows. Or in my case, and this particular one, it's got a triple window and it's got over here, let me see, right there, that little window, it's got 3 dates showing. 2 dates are the odd numbered dates, and the other one is a dot. And you gotta figure out, you have the one before it, the one after it, but it makes you think, what would be, let's say I'm showing 20 and 22. I wonder what that dot stands for. It's a thinking man's watch. Hey, Tanzel, how you doing? At Tanzel. Yeah, he'll do it. The price is right. Poor Tanzel. A week of the year. Yeah, I think that's a great example, Gilberto. A week of the year, and yeah, I've seen those on watches, and I like that. You got 52 weeks in a year. You take a glance at that, and it's 35, and it sort of gives you an idea of where you are in the year. Sometimes years go by pretty quickly. Um, Roger Dubuis has a week indicated. Yeah, that's he's got a lot of stuff. One of the things on my Metropolitan, my Roger, not Roger Dubuis, but Daniel Roth Metropolitan, that's interesting. It's got these two little pin pushers for going from daylight saving time to standard time. So if you're on standard time and you hit the winter time, it will go back an hour, and vice versa for the other way. It's sort of a neat little thing. Are you saying that you consider anything time-telling related is not a real complication? No, I'm not saying that, Thomas. What I'm saying is that that was the rule somebody set up, and I don't think it's an especially bright one. Okay, to tell you the truth, you have. I think you might say they're sort of time telling are added their complications for trying to help tell the time. But the way they said, "Oh, complications are something beyond that." And like I said, sort of things like GMT, moon phases, calendar. Yeah, I know. This is well, they they're they're there's a difference between being part of the main movement and just being part of the gear train. Okay, so they don't have to be part of the gear train. You add a module for moon phase, or you add it for any number of different things that does something that other than purely tell time. That's what they're calling complications. On the other hand, there are all kinds of things like a remontoire, like a tourbillon, that are to me they're 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 far more complicated than most of the kinds of things they have. What about a retrograde? Does a retrograde count as a complication? I would say yes, because they're going back and forth, and they need a special module for them to do that. You wanted to get a PC or a grand complication. Yeah, what's grand about it? Probably one of the grandest complications that is around, and a lot of people can afford, are your chronograph. I don't care for them, but that's has nothing to do with the fact that they're a really interesting complication. You take I mean, one I would like would be an agograph, because the way their whole approach to it, rather than putting three little subdials on top of the main dial to sort of clutter up what you're looking at, they do it in a different way so that uh, your timing, your chronograph timing, and so forth are handled within the main dial. I think complications should be part of the movement. Things like bezels. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah. You could. I mean, it's like they set up these definitions, and it's sort of like this. Somebody handled said, here's a ball of string that's all tangled up, so you untangle it, but here are the rules. I I don't know. We don't have to accept some of these arbitrary rules. I mean, if something's complicated, it's complicated, whether it adds to pure timing or it does something else. And then you get into an argument about, well, is the moon phase a timing thing or is it something else? None of these things I think are worth splitting hairs over. I'll put it that way. Erotic watches. Okay, Washington. No, they're not talked about a lot. Now, there is something though that you brought up that's sort of interesting, and that is what are they? Auto something. Automata, which has to do with doing little tricks. Now, those are complications. One of the most interesting one is a charming bird. I think it was on a Jacques Droz, and a little bird comes out and tweets, and they have a lot of those. The erotic ones are used to sort of like having people going at it on your watch, you've got, it comes under, you better get a life. But I know that, oh man, there's a lot of, and they're not talked about a lot. But I think that in terms of automata, yeah, they're very interesting along those lines. But I don't know. It's sort of like having a robot girlfriend, I'm afraid. Okay, let's see. Watch collecting disease is the ultimate complication. Yeah, but there's no cure for it, Truman. Let's see. Moon time. Okay. The new lady. I have no idea what that means. Hi, Ivan. Um, things and perpetual calendar. The rest don't add much value to daily life. Hmm. Thinness and perpetual calendar. Well, perpetual calendar is one you don't have to even think about. Um, let's see. Watches aren't really talked about. They're just done. I don't know. I mean, you have Sven Anderson, and who else? There are a number of really, I think Jaeger-LeCoultre had them when he was selling them in China way back when. I don't know. Boy, how did this take a turn? How about micro rotor? Um, oh boy, I don't know if rotors are considered as complications. They certainly are, though, and whether it's micro or macro, I don't think it would really matter. I've got watches with both of them, and they do the same thing. They simply keep the watch wound by your movement. This one you can see is a. It's just got that great big. You can see it there. Yeah, it has that great big rotor on the back. Not even in gold. I think the ones that aren't in gold are made of ruthenium or something like that. They have it all has to do with the weight, getting the weight right on it. Yeah, the annual calendar is a lot cheaper than a perpetual calendar, and I don't mind having to adjust it every February. Yeah, annual calendars, the one that I really like is a triple calendar that Vestron Constantin has, triple calendar 42. But you've got that thing has you got to reset it at every time a month ends in 30 instead of 31, you know, you've got to reset the thing. But an annual calendar, yeah, resetting it every February is great complication, I think. The memo box parking timer, yeah, that would be one. Thinnest watches are not a complication, but quite an accomplishment. Yeah, I think who is it? I think Bulgari has been doing a lot of that. They have that Finissimo, real thin watch. Piaget too has these incredibly, thin watches. Really interesting ones. I don't know, every February 4th, something like that. Okay, what are some other ones? Uh, Truman, yes. The QC movement on top of a 4400, the VC triple calendar 42 is one of my grails. Yeah, I tell you, something about that one, Truman. They come, or they originally they came with sort of a red or blue numbering in the background, and I sort of like the red ones. Well, naturally, since I liked it, they stopped producing it. However, fortunately, because they weren't popular, I think they're about $5,000 less than the blue ones. So that, I mean, right now I found one at about that. So if you're looking for one, you want to save some money and you like red, so that might be one to have. I think the most visual complication would be something like the Van Cleef and Arpels watch with the roses. I agree. That thing is, the amazing thing about that is the one with the roses. That was done by Val Fleurier. They did the complications. Some of the other ones that were done by Agenor, um, Jean-Marc Viterac, were the Lovers on the Bridge and some of these other ones. Um, our We have a gear on our watch that's from the two lovers, with the star-crossed lovers with the, and then within the the wheel, there's the two lovers or kite and a shooting star, and it was sort of it was from that watch, and so instead of simply putting in regular spokes on the wheel, they put in that those, which I think is a lot of fun to have. Well, listen, it's about time to go, guys, so I gotta take off. Um, the biggest complication of all is buying a Rolex at retail. Hey, Howard. I found out that the fewer the complications, the happier I am with it. Time only, no date watches with separate seconds. Yeah, most of mine are that way too. This one is fun to wear. Boy, I gotta tell you though, when I travel, having this one is so great because it gives me a lot of information about two time zones, and so I do appreciate it. If somebody is, timing cars, or something like that, like, I think the Daytona got the name from it was using for race timers on the chronograph. Whatever, you use it for. Hey, Bill, how you doing? How are things? One thing I can talk to people in England. We tied. uh, okay, world times. Love world times. Yeah, me too. Anyway, hey, Brian. All right. See you this afternoon. Take care. I'll be back at 4 with some other things that we watch collectors like, but the rest of the world thinks we're nuts. Take care until then.